My husband is refusing to go on a family trip to Aspen, Colorado to go skiing. We do it every year, so I found it very strange when he didn't want to go. But then I saw a couple red flags that just kept mounting up, and then I came to the conclusion that my husband is a dirty, ugly cheater. I'm actually physically shaking while I'm writing this. I had a glass of wine just to calm down, and I think I might need another. I hardly ever drink, that's how shaken I am by what happened. Let me start at the beginning. I'm 31, I met my husband, let's call him Nick, through common friends a couple years ago. Nick's one of those guys who seem really shy when he's around people who he doesn't know but is goofy and loud once he starts to get to know you. He's always been really kind to me and very sweet and thoughtful. He remembers our anniversaries, both when we met and our wedding, and takes me out to dinner. He likes to cook and pitches in home chores even though he works full-time and I'm only part-time. He's an accounts manager for a building material supply firm and I'm a dental hygienist. We've been married for almost 6 years and honestly, there's hardly anything I can complain about. Things have cooled down in the bedroom since the 3rd year or so, but I figured, hey, that's par of the course when you live with someone and see them day in and day out. We do our part to spice things up, trying new things, being open about what we like, and sharing our fantasies. It's all pretty vanilla, and it's not like we never have any coitus. Between the occasional romp and my Hitachi wand, I'd say I feel satisfied. There's that second glass of wine kicking in. Sometimes I wonder if Nick is satisfied, though. I don't just mean in terms of sex, but in our marriage. For a while now, maybe a year or so, he's seeming a little checked out. Playing more video games, coming to bed late, not hearing me when I'm talking to him, and spending more time on his phone. The pandemic, of course, was hard on everyone, and I've also been a bit of an autopilot since things got back to normal. That sense is, when the other shoe is going to drop. I chalk Nick's behavior up to need to stabilize again after the crazy past few years. The few times I brought it up with him, he was really reassuring, agreeing that he's been distant and promising to try to be more present. He seemed to be working on it. His job is fairly demanding, too. To be honest, I don't know what an accounts manager did before we met, and to me it was just one of those terms you hear when people are talking about white-collar stuff. I have to say, the world is of zero interest to me. I tried to be interested, I really do. I probably should have taken more interest in Nick's work. No, I definitely should have taken more interest, but I'm not here to beat myself up, that's for damn sure. Anyways, accounts manager. Basically, he's the guy who makes sure the client is happy. Some of these accounts are really massive, like tens of millions of dollars in plumbing supplies or a bunch of condos. So there's stress for whoever has to make sure the company doesn't lose the account to a competitor or due to some billing mess up. It's a whole thing, The couple of times we've gone out with Nick's team or I've attended an office party, they spend the whole time talking about these clients and the size of the contracts. It's super boring, but I get it. It's a lot of money, and some of these clients are bonkers. Generally, Nick works with other guys and a few women like him. Quite organized into life hacks and hiking and gaming. Then there's Jessica, Nick's supervisor. She's in charge of all the account managers, and I honestly don't know how she ended up in the business because she's the opposite of quiet and organized. She's loud and messy and wears really flashy clothing. And didn't I mention she's super hot? I mean, like, intimidating hot. From what I can tell, she also gets stuff done. I guess she's there for the money, like I said. There's a lot of it floating around, and the bonuses of client accusations are quite good. Wow. Nick likes the money, too. But in a low-key way. He's not obsessed with it like Jessica seems to be. In fact, he used to always complain about how hard she pushed them, getting clients to sign on bigger contracts, and riding the sales team super hard, and expecting these crazy results. In my head, Nick kinda disliked Jessica, and probably would have preferred a different supervisor. Like I said, Nick's been kinda distant for a while, so I thought maybe this year I would do something to help him out. Every year, we go on a family vacation with my parents and siblings. We're all really tight, and I grew up in Colorado, so we love to ski. They all still live in Colorado, but I moved to Texas for university, and Nick is from Dallas. Anyways, Every year we go to a chalet, and my dad rents in Aspen. I taught Nick how to ski, and he really took up to it. It's something that we always look forward to. A week inside a chalet, skiing all day, eating too much, and then sitting by the fire in the evening with hot chocolate. Wash, rinse, and repeat for 7 days. Well, that's blissful. But this year, Nick surprised me by saying that he'd have to work while we were gone. It sounded like he had been pressured into it by Jessica. I asked him how that was supposed to work, and he said that he'd come ski with us in the afternoon but skip the morning session. I grumbled a bit, but it was his decision. He said it sucked, but that it looked as though Jessica might be promoted soon. If that happened, Nick could be the one in line for her position, and I can't say I was thrilled at the idea of Nick having more responsibility at work, but you know what? It did mean more money. And of course, maybe less Jessica. Then around the end of December, he starts dropping hints that he might not be coming at all. The annual vacation's in February, and I'd already booked time off from the dentist office. Nick had his vacation time planned out as well, and now he's saying that work had gotten even crazier. He was worried that everything would not be wrapped up in time for our holidays. At first, that was all. He was worried. Then around the middle of January, he said things had not calmed down. There were a couple of clients who were being demanded, and a third account had been badly managed by a coworker of his who had taken off and let them as his workload. Nick said that he'd try his best to get it done and shift what remained over to another account manager. This went on for a few weeks, keeping me guessing, but in the first week of February, about 6 days before we were supposed to leave, he said that it was impossible. He had to stay in Texas. So I argued that the plane tickets have already been bought. We paid our share for the chalet, which was not cheap at all, and Nick said that I should go and enjoy myself, see my family. The skiing conditions were oh so perfect. He said that he checked. I would not have a beginner like him slowing them down on the slopes. I don't know, he seemed genuinely bummed, to be honest, and that he would not be joining us. I felt bad for him and offered to stay back with him and keep him company. That's when his tone shifted. He seemed annoyed that I suggested staying back with him, and he snapped at me. He never snaps at me. I felt hurt and told him so, and Nick apologized and blamed the stress at work. He said that it was going to be crappy while I was gone, working all day and all night to make sure these accounts were smoothed out and the clients did not jump ship. He said that he'd be a zombie and that the only thing that would make him feel better was imagining me carving powder on some sunny slope in the Rockies. Well, this made me smile. I could see that he was truly under stress, and the fact that he was thinking of my well-being was touching. So, on the 12th of February, he drove me to the airport, and I boarded my plane to Denver after giving Nick a huge hug and a big sloppy kiss at security. My brother Dave picked me up in Denver. I told my parents about how Nick would not be joining us, but I guess Dave had not gotten the message. He was surprised, and I think a little disappointed because Nick is the only other guy, Dave's age, who comes on the ski trips. Now there would be no one for Dave to bro down with, play Mario Kart, and, just do the virtues of his handcrafted IPAs. That's probably why Dave made a dumb joke about Nick staying in Texas with his mistress. Well, I smacked him with my mitten, but I laughed along because then the idea of Nick having a mistress seemed to be absurd to me. I was still misty-eyed after our goodbye at the airport and how tender that he's been with me. So, I was thinking that even after 6 years of marriage, it was amazing that we cared for each other as much as we did, and I was already planning a big thank you for him when I returned. I was thinking of a roast, a couple of bottles of his favorite red wine, and maybe some new lingerie. I drove with Dave and his wife and kids to Aspen, and Mom and Dad were already there with my younger sister. Nick had been right, the conditions were perfect, and for some reason, there was hardly anybody on the slopes that year too. A few hours after arriving, I was on the ski lift heading up from my second or third run. I have to say that I forgot all about Texas and Nick in pretty short order. Well, the days passed quickly. Family breakfast at dawn, and then on the slopes by the first light. Break for lunch and a nap, then back to the slopes. When the sun started to set at around 5 o'clock, we headed back to the chalet to eat more and laze around until bedtime. I texted Nick in the morning, and before bed, sending him pictures of the beautiful sunsets and the videos of Dave riding the halfpipe. It was the last day that my younger sister Lacey suggested, a selfie, before we threw ourselves down a double black diamond. Anyways, just in case we don't make it, she joked. Her phone was back at the chalet, but I had mine with me, so I took the picture. As I was putting the phone back in my pocket, I noticed a bunch of text messages. I opened them up and my heart sank. I was frozen there, right there at the snow at the top of the mountain, and Lacey saw my face and asked what was wrong. I pretended it was nothing, and told her to go back, I would catch up. Well, I kept looking at all the photos, I'd say about a half dozen of them. Nick and Jessica, someplace warm, it looked like Florida. The two of them were laughing and sharing cocktails, cuddling up together and kissing. I even zoomed in on the photo with my now freezing fingers, and they were a little blurry, but it was definitely them, so I snapped back to reality, realizing that there was nothing I could do from the top of the mountain. I was about to get frostbite before I could slap that homewrecker Jessica's face and strangle Nick. I sped down that double black diamond as fast as I could. I was skiing too fast and recklessly, but I did not care. I could hardly see because my goggles were steamed up with tears. I think I even passed Lacey on the way down, and I got to the bottom of the run, removed my skis, and basically ran in my ski boots to the chalet. My mom was doing something in the kitchen, so I quickly said hi and then locked myself in my room. What was supposed to be me and Nick's room, you know? I sat there still in my ski suit as my phone continued to blow up. More pictures. I tried to calm down. I'd read about deep fakes and AI and saw how convincing that they could actually be. I thought that this had to be some kind of prank. The photos were from the office Christmas party, and in those photos Jessica wasn't wearing a bathing suit. I even thought I might have seen her wearing that same dress before, and I decided to call the number that was texting me. No answer. Straight to the pre-recorded voicemail, and I frantically texted Nick and asked him to video call me. He did just a few minutes later. I made an effort to compose myself, and, Nick could tell something was wrong, though. He asked what it was, and I asked him, "Where are you?" He said that he was at home, and I asked him to show me. Well, it was true. He was inside of our kitchen. His work stuff spread all over the breakfast table, and I started to cry. Nick was very confused, and he comforted me and waited until I calmed down. I told him about the photos that I'd received, and his reaction was kinda strange. I thought he would be angry that somebody would play a prank like that, or at least be curious why they do it. He just sighed and said some a-hole was messing with me. He'd been either home or at the office this whole time, and the photos were obviously fake. That's all there was to it. Maybe it was a scammer, but I don't know, I believed him, and we said goodbye. I felt comforted that he was at home. People can be so cruel, man. I thought as I warmed up in the shower. When I was done, I looked at my phone, and the text had continued for a while with more photos and even a few messages. Look at what your husband's up to. Is this the man that you trust? But it stopped. I blocked the number and was about to delete the messages, but I stopped. Instead, I put them in a locked folder on my phone, and I did decide to trust Nick. But on the drive to Denver and the plane back to Texas, doubt started to creep into my mind. Now I'm back home, sitting here on my laptop and right here on my couch, drinking some nice wine all by myself while Nick sleeps. Well, honestly, I feel so torn because things don't really add up. I really don't know what to do, to be honest with you guys. Update number 1. Yesterday, I was at work when I started getting calls from an unknown number. The area code said it was Texas, but I assumed it was some sort of robocall, right? I was busy with patients all morning and had left my phone in the break room, and when I went for lunch, there were 3 missed calls. When I went back to the break room for a coffee at around 4 p.m., there was a message from the same number. It said, "This is Jessica's husband, we should talk." My heart froze. I nearly dropped my mug of coffee, and Sandy, the receptionist, came in just then and said that the next patient was in the chair and waiting for their cleaning. So, I had to suck it up and go out there. I smiled at the older man and chatted with him as I cleaned and polished and floshed as nothing was wrong. But my feet were tapping the floor, anxious and nervous the whole time. The minute that the dentist came in and I could go back to the break room, I broke out in a cold sweat. There was another message waiting for me. I'll be at X this evening. After work at 5:30, I'll wait half an hour for you. Well, the location that he mentioned wasn't far away from me at all. This kind of freaked me out, obviously, right? Did he know where I worked, or was it a coincidence? It was already 5 p.m., and I usually leave work at 6. I went down to the waiting room and saw that it was empty. Sandy was at the desk. She said that they canceled. I only had to help the older patient the dentist was examining now and give him his care instructions, and then I was free to leave. Nick had our car. Usually he picked me up after work, but not until 6 p.m. I texted him and, said that I had some errands to run and would get an Uber home. He just thumbs up the message and I rushed down the street. I was at the location by 5:50. It was the courtyard of an office tower and there was a tall guy waiting by the fountain out front. He walked up to me and said my name. I nodded. I'm Sam. He offered me his hand, but I didn't shake it. I saw the look in his eyes and the grim expression on his face and I ignored it. What do you want? I think you know. Your husband's been cheating with my wife. I'm the one who sent you those photos, but I didn't take them. Well, I know you didn't, because those photos are fake. My husband was home when he was supposedly cheating with your wife, and if you don't stop texting me and pestering us, I'm going to call the cops. I turned and left him there with his mouth hanging open. It felt good to finally release some of my anger on someone. I hope that that's the end of it at least. I'm ready to move on and leave all this behind me. Update number 2. Of course, this isn't over. I'm so embarrassed that I posted the last update because the stuff about wanting to put it all behind me, wishful thinking, delusion. At work on Wednesday, I broke down and texted Sam. We decided to meet on my lunch break and he was waiting for me in a coffee shop near the dental office. Sitting there with a coffee and a tuna sandwich for me, I noticed for the first time how good-looking he was. It made sense since Jessica was a babe, and she probably would not settle for anything less than her husband. He had a British accent, too. Man. Sam drank his coffee and told me between sips that he'd known about Nick and Jessica's affair for months. He thought it started the summer before when their company sent the accounts department on a team-building exercise at some summer camp. He asked me how I knew that Nick was at home the whole time I was skiing, and I told him about the video call. Sam smiled and asked when that was. So I told him, and he said, they were already back from Cabo. So I was wrong, it wasn't Florida. I asked about the pictures and why Sam said that he wasn't the one who took them. He told me that he had hired a private investigator to tail them. API for a second, and it seemed unreal. How is my life coming to this point, I thought. It doesn't even feel like my life. It feels like some cheap thriller, a freaking PI. Well, anyways, how long has this guy been tailing them? I asked. Actually, it's a woman. I hired her last December. Nick and Jessica are pretty discreet. They don't meet often or for long, and as far as I can tell, most of their meetings are at the office. They went to a hotel once, but only for a few hours, and I guess their big mistake was keeping Nick back from your family vacation. I don't know, I guess they thought they were being clever, finding a way to spend a whole week at a resort together. Anyways, they've been meeting less since I sent you those photos. My heart sank when I heard all this. I asked if he had other proof, and he said he could share the surveillance report from the PI with me. Are you still meeting? I asked. Yeah, they're still meeting all right, but they've started wearing hats and K95 masks. Obviously, they know someone took pictures of them, and I guess they think that they can stick to the deep fake story. Yeah, plausible deniability. I was late. I had to get back to work. There was still a part of me that did not believe Sam. I was weary. I didn't want to believe him was the truth. I thought maybe this could be some sort of scam. Why hadn't I ever met him at office parties? And I texted him. He said that he had happened to be in London every time there was a party. So I did what any sane person would do, and I started to follow my husband. I have half the week off, so it wasn't hard. I took an Uber to his work and then waited in a cafe across the street. The first day, he and Jessica left after lunch. They left 20 minutes apart, hats and masks just like Sam said. Well, I got another Uber and followed Jessica to a hotel downtown. Then I sat in the lobby reading the newspaper, and about an hour or so later they came downstairs together, laughing. So I hid my face and they did not see me. I'm crushed. Update number 3. The week after Sam shared the PI revelation with me and I followed Nick and Jessica, it was surreal. I was living with someone who wasn't at all who I thought they were. Someone who could be sweet and kind to me but still lie to my face and keep this huge hurtful secret from me. I think I was in shock for a few days. Then it hit me all at once. I was at home by myself and Nick was at work and I must have spent 4 hours crying. I cried myself dry. Afterward, everything felt clear. I could not go on living with someone who lied that way. Okay, a slip I could forgive if he told me about it, but sneaking around for months, gaslighting me, and even pretending that he didn't like Jessica as a boss, that was some next-level sociopathic behavior. I had to get out of the relationship, and I had to do it clean. Nick made some more money than I did. The house is in both of our names, and I needed to make sure I got some of the shared assets. So, I met with Sam, and when he proposed that we catch them in the act, I had no reservations. Sam and Jessica's 10th wedding anniversary was coming up. Jessica, being Jessica and loving a good party in her honor, had organized a big event. Sam had to plan to secretly film the cheaters when they thought that they were alone. He filled me in on the details, and there wasn't really anything I had to do. Sam had already taken care of everything, and all I needed to do was show up on the day, not tell Nick anything in the meantime, and say my one line at the party. The anniversary party was last night in Sam and Jessica's house. I got there with Nick a little early. When he saw Jessica and Sam, he greeted them like everything was normal. I could not believe the way he was pretending. He even acted like he didn't know where she lived and was having trouble with the GPS directions. I felt kinda nauseated, but I kept smiling. There were a lot of guests, I'd say close to 100. After dinner, when the couple was receiving their gift, Sam made a big show of forgetting his gift for Jessica. He asked her to go and get it from their bedroom, mentioning that it was a little heavy and she might need help carrying it. Well, that was my cue. I told Nick, who was sitting near them, that he should help her. No peeking, Sam said to Jessica. So, they had put up a big screen TV in the living room where they could show pictures of Sam and Jessica over the course of their marriage, and suddenly the screen changed to a live stream of Sam and Jessica's bedroom. Well, where Sam had placed a hidden camera, everyone saw Nick and Jessica hugging, groping each other in front of Sam and Jessica's bed. Sam called to them and told them to hurry up, that we're waiting. Well, there was a shocked silence as Nick and Jessica came into the living room, holding the gift. They could see the now empty bedroom on the screen, and Nick handed the gift to Sam without a word. Sam tore it open and showed it to everyone. Right there, a framed photograph of Nick and Jessica together in a very compromising pose, and a thick envelope that he handed to Jessica saying, "Sign these. I want a divorce." Nick looked at me, his face pale, and I just shook my head, downed my glass of champagne, and walked out. As I passed Nick, I said, "Stay in a hotel tonight. I'm going to Denver. I'll be back when I'm back. Don't try to call me." Final update. Hey guys, it's been 3 months since the anniversary party and everything was changed, of course. The company's executives were at the party and Sam made sure to invite them. Nick and Jessica both lost their jobs due to their behavior, and apparently they had not been as discreet as they thought because some of their coworkers had known for a while that they were having an affair. I started divorce proceedings as soon as I got to Denver. Both of my parents are family lawyers, so it wasn't really hard. They made sure I did everything I needed to do in order to ensure myself half of the marital assets. Well, to his credit, Nick was good about not making things hard for me. Obviously, he'd lost face after what happened. He didn't even try to make any excuses. He signed everything, and I asked him to sign and offered to move to his stuff completely out of the house. I told him that would be best. I was planning on selling the house and giving him his share. I never really liked living in Texas, and my plan was to move back to Colorado. Maybe I'd become a ski instructor or work in my parents' law office. Dental hygiene wasn't really my thing anyways. I realized there were a lot of things I've done because Nick suggested it and he was so organized with his work and money. Now, I wanted to live my life the way I wanted, not to please someone else. After, surprising outcomes of this nightmare is that I've been seeing a lot of Sam. He isn't having an easy time with Jessica, who's fighting tooth and nail in their divorce. She wants everything, of course, but it's a little hard when there's so much evidence of her infidelity. Seems Nick wasn't her first fling. But you know what? It doesn't matter. As it turns out, Sam's family in England is loaded. He suggested that I come out for a visit in his apartment in London, and you know what? I'm thinking about it. I've seen photos of the place on Instagram, and it's stunning. Well, anyways, we'll see what happens. I'm not ready to jump into another relationship just yet, but the attention from him does boost my confidence. I guess every cloud has a silver lining. It always amazes me when we get stories like this. I mean, OP's significant other, her husband, it just blows my mind the lengths that people will go to get away with cheating. And it never ever works out because all you need is one tiny slip up and boom! Just like that, it's out of the bag. Well, that's what we saw in today's story, with OP and also Sam having to come together and basically hatch a plan to solve this mystery. Well, at the end of the story, it seems like OP and Sam are also turning into lovebirds of their own. I've been looking for an update for this story, but there hasn't been an update on this post from OP in a few months. If there is ever an update that comes out, you guys will be the first to see it, so make sure that you stay subscribed, and maybe, just maybe, we can see what happens with OP and Sam and their new relationship. Alright guys, that's going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want more daily videos, consider subscribing. Have a fantastic day, and of course remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya.